How's it going, everyone? Today, I want to cover a topic that is one of the main principles for progression when it comes to training, and it seems most people don't use this principle correctly, and that is progressive overload. From what I see, some will just try to keep adding weight, or some will just try to add reps. Some will just try to add another set, and some will just train harder than last time. While these are all good ways to use progressive overload, you can't forget to control all variables and not just one. What I mean is that if you try to just add weight, but you're doing it at the expense of technique, reps, volume, or any other variable, then you may not really be progressively overloading. Same goes if you're just adding more volume. Is your intensity really staying the same? And depending on your goal, it might make sense to just focus on one thing. But for the vast majority who are looking to build a better physique, you must learn to manage all of these variables and keep them consistent. Then, once you've gotten everything to where you can consistently repeat what you do, then overload only one variable while keeping everything else the same and see what happens. It does take a bit of experimentation to figure out how to program each variable for progression, but once you have everything set up for yourself, progressing towards your goal just seems effortless. If you've listened to any of my past videos, you know that for me, when I started to keep the variable of intensity high and revolve the other variables around this, is what really changed the rate of progression for me. I still believe for natural men trying to build a physique, you have to train with high intensity. Just go to your local gym and observe the men with developed physiques and the men that have not built as a developed physique, and recognize the difference in how they train. People who have a good physique train with much more intent because they know what they need, and they will always be pushing sets very hard. Sure, there's going to be variable for everyone, but if they are natural and have developed a respectable physique, they know how to train hard. This is what I did to get and keep intensity high. First, I lowered my volume. I was doing the traditional 3 sets across everything. I lowered volume to 2 sets, then I still picked rep ranges I wanted to train in. I prefer training in every muscle with low reps and high reps. So one day I would do lower reps and the other day I would do higher reps. The next thing I do after every set is to keep a mental note of RIR or RPE, basically how close you were to failure. And the goal was to be anywhere from 2 reps left in the tank to beyond failure. Since the volume is lower, it is easier to physically and mentally be able to achieve this. And at the end of every week, I'd assess how my recovery was, and if I felt I needed more volume for a muscle, I would increase the volume accordingly, but I still kept the same intensity. As for increasing weight, I started using double progression, where you train within a rep range, and once you hit the top end of the reps across all sets, then you increase the weight. This kept adding weight very simple and straightforward, and I believe this also helped to increase my intensity every set because I didn't just have one number in my head that I had to hit, then I would be good. A lot of times I will just put the weight on the bar without even looking at my rep range and just do the set until failure. You might be surprised at how many more reps you could have done if you just got that number goal out of your head for what you need. Instead of saying, I'm going to try to take this lift to 8 reps, say, I'm going to take this lift to failure, or 1 rep away from failure, or 3 partial reps beyond failure. Once you start thinking like that, then you can create a bar for yourself of where your true weight should be at for a particular rep range. At a certain point, progressive overload will just happen naturally. It's not something you can always program. For building muscle, I will let it happen when it wants to happen, because some days will be better than others. However, keeping intensity high and the other variables where they need to be will allow you to progress when you need to. You don't need to change things up in your programming and create some type of meso or microcycle for progression. Just train hard and keep these things consistent and add volume and weight when your body tells you to add it. Obviously, creating blocks with mesos and micros can be useful for programming and strength training, but today I'm talking to the men who want to build a physique. You don't need to plan out what you're going to do week 3, day 4, especially if you're not an advanced or elite level lifter with a stage ready physique. Obviously, if that is you, your situation is different and completely custom to yourself. But for the rest of us who are just trying to get bigger and build as much muscle as possible, you should be training with intuition and simple progression tactics that I've been talking about. So to sum up what I did for progressive overloading after experimenting with many different styles, first, I laid out all variables so I knew what I was working with. I found for myself keeping intensity consistent and on the higher side is what made the biggest difference for me. So I set that variable to high. Then I filled volume in to match the intensity in the beginning, which was low. And after each week, I would take mental notes of how my recovery and performance was and adjust volume based on that. I use double progression as a means to overload weight. I believe this was a good mental trick for me as well for keeping my intensity high, because each set I would just do as many reps as possible. From doing that, I could discover my true weight I should be training with. Finally, I learned that once variables are managed, your body will tell you when it's ready for more. So let consistency be your focus and overloading will come naturally. I hope that helps and maybe gave you a different perspective on progressive overloading. And remember, it's not about just improving one variable, it's about managing them all. All right, so take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.